Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back, everybody. If you're the type of person that adores talking about movies, but constantly find yourself having nobody that'll listen to you talk about movies, well, buddy, we have the same problem in life, so please consider joining us here at ZakIsCinema. Today, we are going to be reviewing and discussing the new movie, The Strangers Chapter 3. After surviving a previous encounter with the masked killers, Maya becomes the stranger's latest obsession as they force her into a twisted game of violence and survival. So as we jump into the review and discussion for this movie, this is such an interesting trilogy to kind of delve into because when they first announced it, I feel like I was one of those people that was genuinely looking forward to it and quite excited for this trilogy. I mean, I didn't really think we needed a remake or retelling of The Strangers. It's a pretty straightforward, simple enough slasher movie that is very effective for what it's going for, at least with that original one. And I'm one that really enjoys the sequel as well. I think those two are perfect examples of a simple and straightforward slasher movie. But I was getting a little excited with this new trilogy because I heard they filmed them all back to back. And that usually can be a telling sign of, okay, these people, whoever's making it, have a plan, they have a vision, they've already filmed that vision, so there must be something new here to tell story-wise. But like with everybody, the first two chapters were utter dog shit. Let's be real. Even despite that, I was still very curious, very excited for this third installment here, just hoping, okay, this is the climax, this is the final chapter, this must be where they're hiding all of their fantastic ideas, right? There's no way they can't bring at least something to this movie that I enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump into the review section, starting with the positives or just the things that I enjoyed most about this movie. I don't fully remember how chapter 2 leaves off, but it felt like chapter 3 picks up immediately after chapter 2. And I was somewhat interested in the idea with this movie that Maya, I assume in the second one, killed one of the female strangers' characters. And I do think that's an interesting idea to kind of pick up things with this third chapter. Conceptually, it's pretty interesting to see one of the final girls fighting back and actually taking apart this trio of evil people, and especially framing Maya as that one victim that got away and then leaning into the strangers' characters or the leftover ones, then becoming obsessed with her. They end up wanting Maya to kind of join them, not only to join them, but to replace the one stranger character that she killed. So instead, they're kind of forcing her into their world instead of just trying to kill her. It's a genuinely fresh idea in the slasher genre, but especially for this franchise. And I think there was one moment in this movie that I thought was really kind of interesting and I thought was going to go somewhere, but we'll get into the negatives here. But I think there's a point where Maya is forced to participate in this killing ritual and putting her in this constant state of trying to survive without fully submitting or giving in to what the strangers really want her to do. And I think that's a pretty solid setup, and I was interested to see where it was going to go because it creates this moral tension, and I think it could have been pushed throughout these 3 chapters, but also in the series, somewhere a little bit darker, more psychologically unsettling as well. So there was hints of an idea there, just unfortunately there is absolutely zero follow through and any real satisfying ending. So with that said, yes, already, let's jump into the negatives or the things that I just really didn't like about this movie. And kind of jumping off my main point, there's a point in the movie here where the story has Maya kind of dealing with this Stockholm syndrome angle. And I think there's a really interesting idea there where Maya might be starting to break down over the events of the last two movies and emotionally kind of aligning with the strangers, even if it is out of this survival instinct. But unfortunately, it never commits to that. It's never long enough to feel earned, disturbing, or nowhere near satisfying. But my God, with this third one, this trilogy has really ruined the Tamara moment from the first film. That moment was so unsettling when you first watch that original movie because you've never seen it before. They don't overdo it. It's very subtly creepy, but my God, did this trilogy really run that idea into the ground. Every time it has come back in these past three movies, it comes back less scary and even more embarrassing. And I think the same thing applies to that iconic line from the first one of when that couple asks the strangers why they're doing what they're doing, and one of the strangers' characters just casually says, because you were home, almost like, why wouldn't we go through with this? And that line, because you were home or because you were here, my God, it worked once because of its simplicity, but repeating that line as this like groundbreaking moment again throughout this trilogy really almost turned it into this self-parody version of the genre, but also within its own franchise. And when I was watching this third movie, it really just felt like these movies took the smallest, most effective moments people loved about the first one and some parts of the second one and stretched them beyond recognition into an entire trilogy, kind of mistaking repetition for homage, but it just comes off as so cheap, lazy, tiring, and also kind of ruins my enjoyment for the first one, unfortunately, because I've seen that play out so many times. And again, maybe it's my issue with not really remembering the second movie, but this movie about like 5-10 minutes in opens up with this church scene and I think highlights some of the dialogue and tension that they go for. I think the dialogue feels like rejected, creepy one-liners instead of natural, slightly unsettling conversation that I think they were trying to go for. At one point, Maya is in this church with one of the creepy town folks, and this creepy guy is just staring at Maya, talking about biblical things of why God would watch, I think he said like Abraham kill Cain and then kill Abel, some biblical story, and then he's like looking at the camera all mysterious and he's like, maybe God just wanted to watch. And Maya will like look back at him all confused and he's like looking at her all try hard, and it just completely kills any tension.
You killed her. Why?
Does it have to be a why?
And I think the problem with that dialogue carries throughout this movie, but also this recent trilogy, especially with its authority figures in this creepy town that they've been trying to build up. I think there are just constant examples of conversations that are filled with long pauses and forced, menacing looks that come across as awkward rather than unsettling. And it was a problem in the first two movies, but especially with this third movie, the entire town acting suspicious is completely absurd. They're trying to build it up where this creepy town, like anybody could be the strangers. Who's it gonna be? Aren't you curious? And there's a scene in a diner where Maya's family, I believe, is coming to look for her and are like showing up her picture to everyone in the diner, and they're like, where is my sister? Do you know where my sister is? And everyone kind of like puts their heads down or looking all like shameful, and and scared, and they're like, and like some people will be like raising their hands, but then like catching themselves and like, oh, I can't say anything. And it just reminds me of like an elementary school classroom getting caught pulling a prank on a teacher, and the teacher is like trying to figure out who did it, but everybody knows who did it. It's like, this is not unsettling. It's not creepy. It's not mysterious if everyone's just acting suspicious and so over the top, because it's not red herrings. It's not making you think everyone could be a suspect. I'm just thinking, okay, it's a killer town. Whoop-de-doo. It feels less like paranoia and more like a bad stage play, almost trying a little bit too hard, if that makes sense. And I really wish they kind of did something with Richard Brake's sheriff character, where he's this ongoing presence throughout the whole trilogy. You get this idea that he is this sheriff that knows what's going on in the town, but you're trying to figure out, is he in on it? Is he just protecting the strangers? Or the strangers carrying after his work? He is constantly suspicious of Maya's family that comes looking for her, knows that people are looking for her, and at one point, he still then murders his police partner and then drags his body into the back of his vehicle in broad daylight when he knows Maya's family is suspicious of him and watching him. And then they're just like parked in a car, like watching him, debating if he's pulling and hiding a body. It's like, guys, what is going on? This guy, this town is very obviously in on it. Very creepy, bit unsettling. You should probably call some outside forces. Stupid decisions like that really take away any little bit of creepiness factor this movie had, because it destroys any logic or sense of threat. And like I kind of hinted at in the positive section, I think the movie attempts at points of pushing Maya to become something darker throughout her trauma and experiences, but falls completely flat within its execution. There's one point when she finally does kill one of the stranger's characters, when she is roped into this killing ritual, and it feels like a major turning point, but the movie immediately refuses to follow through, because at that point you're like, she's gonna kill all these strangers, she's fighting back even though she's probably scared out of her mind, but then she just kind of stares at the girl stranger character that she killed and never attempts to get the bigger guy who is very clearly distracted. So she never pursues him, never makes a choice that clarifies whether she snapped or is pretending to do this. And then she at one point just passively watches her sister being murdered right in front of her, and the movie never earns any of that emotional moment. So at that point I'm like, okay, is she really part of them? Is she really faking it? If she is a part of them, that turned quicker than episode 3 Star Wars with Anakin, but if she's faking it, she's doing a really good job in this situation, and why would she kill one of the stranger characters and, not go after the other one that is clearly the bigger and literal bigger threat, and just casually watches her sister die in front of her, just really no fucks given. It's just so confusing and ultimately super unearned. But we build up to this third act where Maya is still playing that Stockholm Syndrome angle, and there is this awkward slow dance moment with the male stranger character, the big one in that more iconic mask, and you find out that he is the guy from the church opening scene that we were discussing just a couple minutes ago. I think he's sprinkled throughout the other two movies. I just can't remember, but that scene has no tension whatsoever, because at that point I'm like, okay, they didn't earn the twist of her going darker. I assume she's probably just going to kill him here, and it pretty much just telegraphs exactly what is going to happen. And that is exactly what happened. She just kills him. The ending, Maya is just walking away with the mask, and it just feels empty. It feels unearned. It's vague in a way that suggests it has a bunch of depth, but nothing was leading up to it that supports that kind of ambiguity they were going for with this complex character that they thought that they had. And it's just so frustrating too, especially because this is almost 5 to 6 hours of Stranger movies, all built up for a plotline and ending that is basically every slasher's ending. They gave us this third chapter of her just killing the strangers, and they could have done this in one movie. And all the other characters and mystery they build up throughout the movies, even though it wasn't good, it still goes nowhere. And I think worst of all with Richard Brake's character, he is portrayed as some sort of mastermind behind the town and the strangers' characters, but I almost kind of laughed in an uncomfortable way when Maya's finding the taller stranger guy character in the third act, walks in this creepy stranger's lair and just puts a couple bullets in him, and then that's the end of his character. There's no build up, no tension, no final confrontation. When that happened, it felt so out of place. I really thought I was watching some sort of dream sequence. It was just so jarring, and I'm like, okay, I guess that character is now gone, and we don't really find out what the fuck his purpose and point was. But I think what's so frustrating and disappointing with this movie is, again, 3 movies in, all this saga accomplishes is telling the plot of most slasher movies you've seen before, and it is stretched beyond belief and destroys any suspense or tension that it really could have had. And I think what's even more frustrating is that you can see the better idea right in front of you. I think if this trilogy was compressed into a longer, more epic version of itself, went meaner, went hard, rated R, and slowly built up Maya's psychological kind of shift, I think it would have worked in a 2-hour slasher movie. But instead, there's some interesting ideas with the Stockholm Syndrome angle introduced here, but it's like a 10 to 15 minute subplot, and then they just revert back to basic slasher tropes, and even that is never earned, even though they had 3 movies to do so. So I'm just kind of left frustrated, sad, confused, and really wanting to talk to the person that greenlit this and decided, yeah, I'll fund this. Because I think overall, The Strangers Chapter 3 tries to justify an entire trilogy by chasing ideas it never commits to, turning what could have been a dark psychological evolution into a repetitive, frustrating, and ultimately hollow finale. So I think for my rating for this movie, I'm going to include all 3 of these movies with this rating. This is a trilogy and group of movies I am never going to watch again. I will never rent. I will never even ask my friend to illegally torrent this on his Plex server, because there is no point or no reason for me to sit down and watch this again. I'm just going to take some time, distance myself from this trilogy, give it about 5 years, go back to the original, and try to experience the original for the fantastic movie that it really is, and hopefully I forget about this trilogy ever existing. But you guys have my thoughts here on The Strangers Chapter 3. Please let me know down below what you thought of The Strangers Chapter 3, and feel free to spoil. I didn't even say spoilers, but yeah, spoilers if anybody cared. Feel free to let me know your thoughts and feelings on the other Strangers movies, even outside of this trilogy. Let me know what you think of this franchise down below. I enjoyed the first 2 movies. This trilogy, I'm just going to pretend never happened. Maybe you differ from me, and that is okay. That is what ZakIsCinema is for. If you do, please let me know that. That's about it. You guys have my thoughts. I appreciate anybody watching my videos. It means so much to me, so thanks again. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.